Hi guys, welcome back. It has been a long while since I have done an update, so I thought that I would just do a little video to give a quick update on my competition status. And I think my last video was in 2019 going into junior nationals. So I just wanted to do a little recap and a contest update. And then the second part of this video, I wanted to give some tips for new competitors if you're just getting into the sport of bodybuilding, for those of you who are new. And hopefully I can help prevent some of the pains that I went through and things that I've learned along the way. So quick update, quick recap of my 2019 prep. You can go back and look at the videos that I did if you're interested. I started working with my coach in fall of 2018. We trained for a local show in spring of 2019. And I was kind of going into that show with the intentions of just going out with a bang. I was going to do the best I could possibly do and potentially retire. So that didn't happen. I ended up winning the overall there. I went on to compete at Junior USA's a month later. I placed second there. And then a month after that, which is I think right when I did my last video, I was going to Chicago for Junior Nationals and I ended up placing fifth there. So that was by far my best season to date. Started competing in 2007, so I have been doing this for quite some time. And that kind of just gave me the bug all over again. And it was really cool to just see my physique really come to its full potential and finally get into the kind of shape that I needed to be at to show my full potential and bring my best and be competitive at the national level. So after that, I went into an off season, and again, it was by far my most successful off season. Mainly, I think because I was just super motivated and focused, and I continued to check in with my coach every week, which is something that I hadn't really been doing in years prior. And that made a big difference because it really just helped keep me accountable and really follow through with an off-season building phase, essentially. So obviously, going into 2020, it turned out to be a very different year than everybody had expected. I was lucky enough to be in a position where I could continue to train through the pandemic and through everybody being shut down. We were shut down for 2.5 months, and I was again lucky enough that I own a gym, so I had access to a full facility that I could continue training. So that was very helpful for me, and I planned on competing in 2020 at the NPC Nationals, which happens in November. So that was still the plan. All of the earlier shows in the year kept getting rescheduled and canceled, so it really didn't affect my contest prep plans. However, Nationals got moved from Miami to Orlando, same dates, and then the Team Universe competition that's usually in July got rescheduled to the week just before Nationals. So my coach and I talked about doing both of them, and why not? That one actually got moved to South Carolina. They're 1 week apart. I'm already going to be in shape and ready, and it would just increase the chances of getting that pro card. So I kind of switched to Universe being my main show that I was training for. I went there. I had a really great prep, and I won my pro card. So I placed second in my class, and I walked away with an IFBB pro card. So it was very surreal and very exciting. It was something that I had been working towards for a very long time, and it still kind of seems a little bit surreal, but it's starting to sink in. 13 years of competing and actually having that goal to turn pro, and finally did it. So that is my big update. I am now officially an IFBB pro. Long time coming, I'd like to say. So not that turning pro and having that title necessarily qualifies someone to give advice, because there are plenty of competitors who, I'm not taking anything away from them, but are very genetically gifted, and they've probably been training for a long time, but they get into the sport and they turn pro very quickly, and they might even still be new to the sport. So I do have quite a bit of experience. I've gone through very thick ups and downs through the last 13 years to get to where I am today, and I've learned a lot and changed a lot. That kind of brings me to the second half of this video, which is 5 tips for new competitors. So tip number 1, get a coach. Get a coach right off the bat. That is something that I wish I had done earlier, way earlier than I did. It would have saved me a lot of time, a lot of mistakes, many years of just lots of emotional, physical issues that I kind of ended up going through by not having the appropriate guidance. So that is the first big one, and it's an expense, definitely, but it is well worth the investment. And think about it as, your coach is going to help you decide, if you're brand new to the sport, decide maybe what division you want to do, mapping out an action plan, deciding which show to do, posing, just everything involved with competition. Every coach works differently and kind of has their own different coaching styles. It's much easier to find an online coach today than it was back when I started, and especially being able to find one that is going to suit your needs. So get a coach, but also make sure you do your research and find one that is going to work well with you. Don't be afraid to interview several different coaches and read testimonials and check out their sites. And if it's, you want somebody who's really going to care about you through this process. And if you're just another number and they're going to give you a cookie cutter meal plan and not any personalized attention or guidance, and they're not going to teach you anything along the way, then those are some red flags to maybe go elsewhere. Getting a coach is kind of the foundation here, and then they can help you with the following, some of these other tips as well. Tip number 2, know why you want to compete. Know your why. This is really important because oftentimes people will see the stage shots of competitors and they say, oh my God, I want to look like that, I want to do that, without really knowing what's fully involved in the process of competing and getting from point A to point B to point C, getting up on stage and actually being at that place. There's a lot that goes into it, and that's another reason why having a coach is so beneficial, because if you're not familiar with the sport and the process of it, they can help you kind of narrow down and figure out why it is that you want to compete. And I just want to say, and this will kind of lead into the next tip here, if you're competing because you want to look a certain way and you think that you want to look like a bikini competitor or a figure competitor, and you want to look like that all the time, that is not going to happen. And you're setting yourself up for probably a very rocky road there. So this kind of goes into my next tip, which is set your expectations. So if you want to compete because you want to challenge yourself and you want something new to learn and to just kind of set a goal and work towards that, that's great. If you want to, just change your lifestyle and you've changed your lifestyle and you've just started to get into health and fitness and you wanted to, again, like challenge yourself, take it to the next level, and you want to do one show, that's fine. However, if you want to do this and compete, it is a sport. So setting your expectations, you need to know that once you achieve that look and you get stage lean, you're not going to stay there. So that is the biggest thing. I really wish that I had gotten into my head when I first started, because I was chasing this idea of being in this contest shape and being super lean all the time. And so I set myself up for a very slippery slope after my competition, after my first show or first several shows, because I had these expectations of myself that I needed to now be a competitor and look the part all the time. So you have to understand that there is an on season when you're prepping, you're getting ready for a show, you're going to step on stage, and then there's an off season, and there's a transition in between the two, which is another reason why having a coach is very important. But you're going to have a different body on season and off season, and that is just the reality of the sport. It took me way too long to really accept and understand that, okay, I'm going to look a certain way on stage, and then I'm going to look a different way in the off season, and just being able to appreciate both of those for what they are. Off season, you're going to carry more body fat, and your goals are different. Off season, you're focusing on building and improving for the next competition. Because if you don't, which is another mistake that I made, was I was always chasing this lean physique. So I think it really hindered my progress in the off season because I wasn't programming and structuring my off season plan to facilitate muscle growth and really improving on the areas that I wanted to improve. I kind of just trained, I ate and kind of like went off the deep end, and then I gained all this weight back, and then I was trying to like erase it, and oh no, I've gained too much weight, now I need to like jack up cardio again, and I felt like I needed to then diet again. So it was setting me up for a horrible cycle. And not only physically, but just like mentally, it's pretty much a mind fuck. So set your expectations and know what you're getting yourself into. But the other thing with setting your expectations is if you're in a relationship, competing can be strenuous on relationships. It's very important to have a support system. So having a coach, your significant other, you just need to have a conversation with them, make sure that they're on board and they're being supportive. And as you go through, it's a very selfish sport. You're going to be committing a lot of time and a lot of energy into prepping with food and cardio and training. As you get leaner, as you get closer to stage, you're going to be more tired and lethargic and maybe cranky and just not going to want to do as much stuff. Your libido might drop. So these are all things to consider. It's easy to see stage shots of competitors and you see the glamour and this beautiful, lean, muscular physique. But again, if you're brand new and you have no idea what that process was leading up to that point, there is a lot of time and effort and money, everything that goes into getting to that place. So just make sure you're setting your expectations appropriately. If you're new, your coach can kind of fill you in on some of that stuff and hopefully help guide you a little bit in that area. Okay, so tip number 4 is expenses. This is not a cheap sport. So make sure that you know all of the things that you're going to need to be spending money on. A lot of times it's easy to underestimate how much it's going to cost to compete, but there's entry fees, there's getting your NPC card or whatever organization, there's hotel to go travel, there's tanning, if it's your first time, suit, heels, makeup, hair, if you're not doing it yourself, having a professional, travel, possibly taking time off work. The other thing is when I first started, a lot of times tried to do things on the cheap, and it doesn't always work out to your advantage. So keep in mind, if there's a competition held at a venue, at a hotel, and the rates there, usually they'll give you, they'll have a special competitor rate, but there's been many times when I have gotten a hotel room at another place, and even though it was cheaper, maybe $50 a night cheaper, maybe $100 a night cheaper, you have to think about the added stress that makes. So if you're staying at a place that is off-site, and again, if this is, I'd say probably more for national level shows, because they're usually held at big convention centers or hotels, and I cannot tell you how it's not completely stress-free, but being at the venue and just being able to go from your room and walk downstairs and you're there, and not having to get in your car, and travel and find parking. And then time-wise, if you're running late, you get stuck in traffic, there's just so much added stress. You want to be as relaxed as possible and carefree and just have everything easy. So sometimes it's worth it to just pay a little bit extra money to get professional tanning or get your hair and makeup done if you're not comfortable doing it yourself. So tip number 5 is have a post-show plan. So again, if you're working with a coach, think about that post-show period. So depending, every coach again is going to work a little bit differently. So you may be doing say a 16-week contest prep. Make sure that you have some time to work with them included in that for after your competition. Pay for a couple extra months to work with them post-show. I promise you it will be worth every penny, and your body will thank you. Post-show is probably one of the hardest times because now everything's done. You're all the dieting is done, and weight's been lifted off your shoulders, and you feel great. You're in the best shape you've ever been in, but it's just a very slippery slope. And if you don't have a plan and you don't have guidance phasing out of that prep, it can get you into trouble really quickly and easily. I had a very rough first competition post-show. I gained back 30 pounds. I don't know how quickly, it was fairly quickly. And this all kind of goes together, setting your expectations, knowing your why, working with the coach, just having that plan set in place, because you're going to be kind of all over the place and you're going to want to eat everything in sight. So obviously you'll want to indulge, and that's totally fine. But then at some point you kind of need to get back on track and then start reversing out of that competition for your body to physically be able to kind of adapt in the other direction. And then to also set yourself up for a better prep the next time you compete. So obviously there's a lot more I could elaborate, especially with that reverse dieting and everything, but I'll save that for another time. If you have questions, please comment and let me know. I'd be happy to go into that more or answer any questions that you have. So I have a couple of bonus tips, and this is more specifically geared towards people who are brand new to not only competing but also lifting. So if you're brand new, a lot of times people will kind of start lifting and they will see inspiration from YouTube or Instagram or whatever it is, and they say, oh, I want to do this. I'm going to pick a show and I'm going to do this and I'm going to compete, only having lifted for like maybe a couple months or whatever it is. So my tip for you, if you're brand new to lifting, don't jump right into a show, because the physique that you see on stage is mostly built from off season. So you need to take some time to really lift, eat, and if you can, I would start working with a coach right away. You don't have to work with them just for prep, and it's going to be much more beneficial actually to start working with a coach and start with a building phase, because then the two of you can work together and you're going to get to a much healthier place to start a prep down the road. And you'll probably make much better progress in shorter time, and it's going to help you just kind of set yourself up for success. So don't jump right into prep. Start with the building phase. And if you're brand new to lifting, please don't take any drugs. That's definitely a big part of the sport, and I was very naive about it when I first started competing. You need to allow your body to naturally do what it can. So it's, I think very common these days for competitors to get into the sport, and having just started, they may have influences around them, suggesting, and certain coaches, of course, will do that as well. Get to your natural potential first before you even consider doing anything to enhance that. Do the work, eat, lift, train hard, and just try to really give it some time and let your body naturally build that muscle. And then down the road, if that's something that you want to consider, you can talk about that more with hopefully an educated person to guide you. Be patient. There's always another show. There's always, more to come. So there's really no reason that you need to step on stage right away. So those are my tips for today and my update. So thank you guys for tuning in. If you're still with me, I appreciate it. Again, if you have any questions, please comment below, reach out. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. And hopefully I will be back much sooner than it took me to do this video between my last video. And I will see you guys all very soon.